not seeking help. I mean, I think there's some clinical kind of diagnoses where people usually don't seek help, like psychopathy and things, because, or I don't know why exactly, but I imagine because they don't see a problem with it. They're maybe not suffering in a way where they would seek therapy. So, I mean, that's sort of a tautological kind of explanation, but yeah, they essentially maybe don't think anything is wrong with them. If they can be a very effective person in the world, they get a lot of praise or resources or whatever, and they basically maybe haven't suffered enough or fallen enough or yeah. And I also think back again to that image of Narcissus and the lack of self-awareness. And I think self-knowledge is very much tied in with self-awareness. Why, what your feel, uh, I don't know, what am I trying to say? It's something about your awareness of who you really are, um, and what standard you're using. Maybe there's an inherent sense in everybody that if your ultimate standard is just what other people think and what society thinks, then there is an inherent sense of this is not real. That if you could tap into that and go past the um, effectiveness you have with other people in the world, then maybe that could lead you into some sort of therapy, wisdom seeking practices and everything. I would think that most people maybe have something like that. But what do you think about that?
Yeah. Excuse me. Um, yeah, it's the like the narcissist in this particular case where like the you're saying they haven't had enough consequences, they haven't suffered enough.
Hmm.
I think they my guess would be that it's sort of like they see that as other people's problems,
Hmm.
and they sort of they there's a lack of awareness of how other people's unhappiness or suffering impacts them.
Yeah.
Like they don't care.
Yeah.
And they don't have a sense of their own. They don't esteem themselves enough to have a sense that they exist as a subject. They just exist as like the reflections that everybody else give, the way that other people reflect back at them who they are. Um, and so what am I trying to say? So because like they don't have an interior world, they don't have a sense of self that exists, despite being narcissistically focused on their self-image. It's sort of the self-image that other people feed them with, you know. So they don't have an interior self that they can rely on, that they don't have an esteem of themselves that they can say, oh, well, I esteem myself, I am valuable, I have good traits, um, and I'm okay with that, even if somebody else says that I'm an asshole. Which is funny because as soon as you start putting these things into words, like I'm describing something that seems very counter narcissistic. Because narcissists are all, oh, I'm the best, I'm the best. Of course I'm the best. Look at me, I'm the best. Everybody thinks I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. But what's going on inside of them is they need that story that everybody thinks they're the best, and they need
Hmm.
to cultivate and sort of continue to harvest that story
Hmm.
because somewhere inside of them is a lack of that belief. They don't actually believe that. If they believed they were genuinely worthy beings, they wouldn't need everybody to remind them of that all the time. They
Hmm.
wouldn't be upset when somebody said no to them, or when somebody, said, "Hey, you're being kind of an asshole." They'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I esteem myself enough that I can take your feedback that I'm being an asshole, and I esteem that you have your own interior world that I've inadvertently injured, and I apologize. And how can I make amends?" there's a here and a there that you can sort of bridge between. Whereas with narcissists, there's no here. There's nothing in them that exists of itself. Everything they have is propped up by other people's images of them that they can rely upon. And they just sort of like, again, they just sort of cultivate and harvest that.
Mm.
Um, I forget where we started from, that sort of that image of the
Well,
hollow and the harvesting kind
mhm.
of overpowered my
Yeah,
my
yeah.
memory. Yeah.
Yeah, that I mean that is kind of a powerful way of thinking about narcissism. I think maybe one thing that I had wondered about is why they don't see a need for personal growth or going to some type of therapy or deeper conversation with themselves.
Mm, yeah.
And I think, yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
some of it. Like you were saying, that it's they don't see a problem and that they're they're and they don't care when they blame others and things. And I think that there's something about blaming others and psychological problems not getting better. Again, bringing it to self-awareness. That I heard the psychologist or psychiatrist Anna Lemke on a podcast, and it was Joe Rogan, I think, and he had asked her, "So, in all your decades of experience, have you noticed a pattern where people in general get better or they don't?" Which is a great question to ask a experienced psychologist. And
Yeah.
I think she at first said, "Not really," maybe thinking of all the complexity, and then she said, "Well, actually, yeah." And it's when they either take responsibility for who they are or they blame others, which really makes sense to me. I mean, yeah, you
Mm,
got to see that there's a problem before you face all the difficulty of changing it and
yeah.
uncertainty.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. And I think that kind of does answer the question you were presenting earlier of narcissism, of like what why they don't see that there's a problem, why they don't seek help, is because in order to take responsibility, like there has to be a sense of general innate goodness, or like there has to be a self
Mm,
there, like to take responsibility. And I think like hmm, almost like a self apart from the images you get from other people.
mm,
Um, because if you don't esteem yourself, if you don't believe that you're a relatively good person, or you don't even believe, like if within their psychic interiority, within their psychology, there is no healthy narcissism, there is no healthy sense of self as existing in the world, um, then there's nothing to work on. There's nothing to improve.
mhm,
If you are if your only sense of self is that people are esteeming me and they think I'm pretty badass, and that's all I need, is just people to think that I'm badass, and then I'm pretty badass. I'm pretty handsome. I'm pretty powerful. I'm loved. Everybody loves me. Um, if that's the only place you derive your sense of self, then why would you go to therapy? Therapy's telling me I'm selfish. Therapy's telling me I'm uncaring of other people. Therapy's telling me I'm a narcissist. Why do I want to do any of that? You're creating this thing in me that's horrible. Everybody else loves me. What's wrong with you? Why would you even do that to me?
mm,
Why
yeah,
would I be interested in listening to you tell me how horrible you think I am when I can just go out there and, I don't know, seduce somebody, or give a speech or whatever, and everybody loves me and it's great and that's all I need.
yeah,
That makes me okay.
yeah,
Um, but there's no you. And so because there's no you, nobody else has a you either. And so you can just use them up. And when they leave, it's their problem, it's their fault, and you'll find somebody else.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I think I'm seeing mirrors here between narcissists and the people who try to care for them and like humanity in general and the ecological crisis.
Please like and subscribe for more of our open minded content and comment below on your thoughts or questions about the story. Let us know if you'd like us to cover another stimulating story, and thank you for participating.